Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so grateful that you are here and I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. I don't think it is possible for me to put into words how excited I am for today's video. Today we are going to be diving into yet another glitch in the matrix experience, except this one is unlike any other I've ever dove into, looked into, or have even heard about. You guys know that I have covered and done a ton of research in the past on a variety of subjects like parallel universes, glitches in the matrix, quantum immortality, wormholes, just anything and everything to do with the unbelievable. And I feel like as society becomes more and more open to the idea that we are in fact spiritual beings having an earthly experience, more and more people are coming forward with their experiences. And therefore, we're starting to realize as a collective, this is so much bigger than us. This is so much bigger than this one lifetime, We are so much more than this one earthly experience. But going off of that as well, I do believe that more and more people are open to the idea that there is more to us than this singular lifetime. There is life after death. There was life before us. We are a soul before we are a physical being. I think it's a little bit more difficult for people to understand the concept. There could be endless parallel universes to ours, meaning there are endless versions of you out there in the universe and endless outcomes occurring at once. And that's where the concept of a glitch in the matrix, or entering a wormhole, or crossing over into another parallel universe becomes all the more interesting. Today's video is probably going to be more on the lengthy side because when I tell you guys, after reading this experience, I spent hours on my iPad. I will show you when we get there, writing out all the different potential timelines, all the different possibilities and what could have occurred. And the more that I thought I understood what happened in this experience, the more questions I was left with. So while I wanted to bring this video to you guys after I had come to a solid conclusion as to what I personally, in my experience, believe occurred, I couldn't come to it without sharing it with you guys first. So perhaps after we go through all of this and we get to the end of this video and you guys share your opinions, there could be a part 2. Now, this experience is one of those that by the end of it will have you questioning reality on all levels. Around 10 days ago, a user took to Reddit, entering an experience into a glitch in the matrix forum that was unlike anything most users have read. I will have a link to the original down in my description box. Obviously, all credit goes to the individual who wrote this. I am just here to react to it with you guys and share my possible theories. Now, I went through every single possible timeline that I could come up with within my mind, every single space within the experience that a opposite parallel reality could have intertwined. And it was so interesting. So while I end up getting into reading this with you guys, I am going to try to read it a lot slower than normal. I know I can get excited and get a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm going to try to slow it down here. So this is called, I Think I Drove Through a Wormhole or Something. I got up and got ready for work, hopped in the car ready to start my 1.5-hour commute. I'm driving my normal route and about 35 minutes into my drive, I miss my exit due to a weird traffic instance where I just couldn't get over in time. No big deal. I continue on and let my GPS recalculate. I like using my GPS regardless of knowing the route because it gives good insights into traffic patterns and ETA, things like that. It recalculates to the next exit and even saved a couple of minutes. I was like, oh nice, maybe I just found a secret shortcut to work. So at this point, I blindly follow the GPS as I am unfamiliar with a lot of the route at this point, and I drive for another 20 to 25 minutes or so, and this is when things get weird. I come up on a road that seems familiar to me for some reason, and I discount the feeling because of the off chance maybe I had been there before. I then turn onto the road and realize that I am on a road that connects to the road my house is on, and I've never gone this way, because I've never had a reason to. I think, wow, this is weird. How did I get turned around like that? So at this point, I know I'm gonna be late. So I call my boss to let him know I've made a mistake. I decide I might as well stop in at the house to let the dogs out quick and go to the bathroom. This is the weirdest part. As I approach my house, I look in the driveway and my heart sinks. My car is in the driveway, same license plate and everything. That's when I look down at the steering wheel and realize I'm driving my wife's car. I pull in the driveway and walk in the house. My wife was confused to see me because she knew I had left for work not long ago. I was surprised to see that she was awake because she works night shift at the hospital. I asked her if by chance she saw me take her keys out of her purse to drive her car that day. She reaches in her purse and pulls her keys out of her purse. Okay, keep this in mind. I reach my hand in my pocket and pull out my keys. How was I driving her car with my keys? Our cars are very different, but the fobs are similar. I again discount it as a weird mix-up and hop back in my car to go to work this time. I text update my boss and let him know the situation. I get on the road and this time I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss my exit. As I'm approaching the same exit I missed last time, I see emergency vehicles lining the road and the exit is closed. There was a car crash on the exit involving a semi-truck. The car that was in the accident was the same make and model as my car. I found this to be very spooky. Again, I'm forced to drive a different route, and at this point, I'm very flustered. I call my boss and again just update him, and he says, no worries, you should still be able to make it in time for the meeting. I look at my clock, and it's as if I was on time. How? I called my wife just to confirm I was home a while ago, and she said that I wasn't home, but she couldn't find her keys anywhere. I was starting to freak out. I checked my phone's previous calls and texts to my boss, and there was nothing. I never called or texted him. Do I need to go to the doctor? So that was the original entry. And then the user posts yet again an update here. And it says, update. My wife found her keys. They were in my work pants that I wore the day before. Very important factor. Update 2. Asked my boss for a mental health day because the experience has been very unsettling. I spoke with my boss about the experience I had, and he said I have the day off to figure some stuff out. Yes, he is a very cool boss. This is what I found out. More questions than answers, really. I mapped out my route and traced the exit that I thought I took. The only plausible exit that I took doesn't seem to connect or turn around back to my home in any way. It does, however, provide an alternate route to work. I haven't been back to the exit where the accident happened. I want to investigate it to see if I can see any sign of wreckage. Example, fluid stains on the road, bits of car with matching color, etc. We'll update when I go back there. I have somewhat of an eidetic memory, I guess. Usually, I can recall very specific information about an event, what someone is wearing, color of their coffee mug, etc. Things that other people usually just disregard as unimportant. And that's why this part is really frustrating to me, because for the first time in my life, I cannot remember any details about the interaction with my wife. My wife is my rock. She has been very supportive throughout this experience. I tried to remember specific details about our interaction, but cannot seem to pick out any specific details like I usually would. She works night shift as a NICU nurse, and it was her day off, so her schedule is all over the place, and I thought for sure she would be sleeping when I got home, but she was awake. The key fobs are a mystery as well, but for safe measure, I went out in the driveway and ran a test to make sure that the car would not start if I had the wrong keys, because I've heard of such things being possible with certain cars. But no luck. I switched cars and tested, vice versa, and nothing. The only plausible explanation here is that maybe I grabbed her keys from her purse after getting home unexpectedly, and then just drove my car to work. But this doesn't explain her keys being in my work pants from the day before. She found them before I returned home. I appreciate everyone's support and ideas through this weird experience and will update if I connect any of the dots. So far, I'm rationalizing it as some kind of false memory, or perhaps a lucid daydream, or some sort of disassociation, which doesn't necessarily make me feel any better. To the people that are saying the experience is fake, The thing is, it might be, but it felt really real to me, and I'm just trying to be rational about it. And that's the end of the experience. Now, of course, this was posted in a Glitch in the Matrix forum, and everybody is weighing in on their opinions. So immediately I went through the comments and everyone's like, I think you jumped to a parallel universe. I think universes are intertwining. I think you went through some sort of a wormhole. Some people are saying, I think you need to go to the doctor, which I would definitely do regardless. But I couldn't come to a conclusion as to what exactly I thought it was. So of course, I decided to grab my iPad, writing out all of these different notes, kind of combining all of the different plausible timelines. And I'm gonna start out with my theory that I feel is the most plausible if we're talking a Glitch in the Matrix parallel universe forum, and that is essentially what the individual likely may feel occurred having posted it in this space. I broke this into 2 timelines, potentially 3 timelines, okay? Now bear with me here. This may come off as a little bit confusing, but when my brain starts going, it goes a million miles a minute. So feel free to find holes in what I've come up with. I'm gonna look at this as a parallel universe meets quantum immortality, which is essentially jumping from one universe to another. You have an accident in one, you may die in the one universe, that you were existing in, and you essentially jump, you quantum leap to a parallel universe so similar to yours, but with little changes within it. So perhaps the curtains that were once in your house aren't orange, they're green. Like little things like that. That's a poor example, but you know what I'm trying to say. You jump to a timeline so similar to yours that having just jumped there, you believe you're still within your timeline. However, you'll find little differences. And some people actually believe that's where Mandela effects come into play, is we're all kind of jumping universe to universe, so we remember things differently from our specific original universe. That is a whole other subject matter. If you guys want me to jump into that, I most definitely will. That will likely be a lengthy video, but there is the concept of quantum immortality. So basing it off of my initial idea of a parallel universe, either intertwining or him jumping to a parallel universe, I'm combining that in with quantum immortality. So my initial thought, okay, when I was first reading this, was that it was in fact him who had left the house, that he had been in the car accident, and that he had winded up off on this road, perhaps quantum leaping to another universe, hence why the wife didn't make sense when he had gotten there. Now, this made sense in theory to me, but then the idea that he suddenly was transported into his wife's car, if he had jumped to a parallel universe and he was now said version of himself, that would likely mean that he had been driving the wife's car from the beginning. And when he pulls up to the house, the wife is there with his car in the driveway. So it led me to believe at first, okay, so he was in the accident, he quantum leaped to an opposite universe where he's in the wife's car. But then again, why was his car there, and why did the wife have her keys if he was out driving her car? So that seemed strange to me, which made me believe it was even more confusing than that, and that there were potentially, let's start with the 2 timelines. So there's timeline 1 and then there's timeline 2, and we'll call the timeline 2 being the current timeline, the individual who is writing said experience. If we were to go off this theory of mine, in timeline 1, it would have absolutely nothing to do with said individual. Their lives are existing as a mirror to one another with separate outcomes. So as he is driving, he's unable to get over for whatever reason. That's not his story in that universe, and he continues driving. But individual in timeline 1 had left his house in his car, taken the original exit, and was involved in a fatal accident. If this were to be the case, my theory would be that individual in the current timeline who wrote this, I hope you guys are following, left for work that day in his vehicle, okay? So we know that he left for work in his vehicle. He couldn't get over. He ends up lost. I believe in the period of getting lost, he jumps to a parallel universe by whatever way that happens to him, and he winds up in a universe where he is now driving his wife's car and things are different. For an example, he said that his wife works night shift. He was shocked to see her up and at him during the day. Perhaps in said parallel universe, wife has a different profession. But then there still is the odd question of the keys. That's still where my mind went a little crazy. But then as he continues, right, he now gets back into his vehicle. So backtracking for a moment, I believe he left for work. He couldn't get over from the exit for whatever reason. That wasn't meant to be his fate that day. He takes a different route, gets lost. One way or another, perhaps like he says in his title, he winds up through a wormhole and ends up in a universe very similar to his, but in which he is not driving his vehicle and his vehicle is now out there in the driveway. He goes inside, that's not his wife. He gets back into his vehicle. And this is when I believe that perhaps he re-enters into his current timeline. Now at this point, I believe that there's some sort of an overlapping where he is beginning to drive and he does see what happened in another alternate universe. Going back to the idea that I also imagined, going through different things, perhaps that was the husband of the wife in the universe that he was jumping over to. Now at this point, okay, he writes his boss again, except it's for the first time. Now when he writes his wife, she now can't find his keys, which we later found out were found from his work clothes from the day before, okay? He's on time. This theory kind of makes sense to me. I'm going over the whole thing thinking he kind of went through different universes, one way or another, parallel universes to his, perhaps glitches in the matrix, whatever you want to call it. And it made sense with certain questions that I did have. Like I had written here, number one, why would he be driving the wife's car if she has the key? That's still a question of mine. And number two, why did he have the wife's keys in his work pants from the day before? Okay, you guys, editing Hailey here. As you can see, I am very invested in this, but my brain is starting to hurt with all the ideas. As I'm editing right now, I'm thinking, what if he did die and go to another universe, or was in another universe in general where their cars are swapped? Hence why he suddenly thought that he was driving the wife's car and how her key was in his pocket. Now that does still leave me with a number of questions, but it's still an interesting theory to throw out there. Things like this, believe it or not, really and truly do happen on a daily basis all across the world. I don't care what anybody says, it is something that is so unbelievable until you experience it, until you witness it, until you have an unbelievable, supernatural, unearthly experience, and then it all becomes so real that you can't even believe you never believed it before. These things do happen on a daily basis. So much of my life has been looked at as if like, yeah, okay, like that sounds like a movie, that sounds like a book. And I'm like, you're telling me, like I lived this, I experienced it. I looked in the mirror like, what is this? Like, what am I doing right now? But it was very much the truth. And so I'm looking at this as exactly what's in front of me. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly occurred. And I want to know from you guys, what do you think happened here? Do you think it was a glitch in the matrix? Do you think they entered a wormhole? Do you think this is one of those maybe supernatural stories that somebody's put out online? I would love to know your thoughts and theories. As of right now, I believe it was a glitch in the matrix. I believe it was an overlapping of parallel realities that were so similar to his, yet so different. And I'd be curious as to knowing why they were overlapping and why that day specifically. I love talking about this kind of stuff so much. It fascinates me, it intrigues me. I love, even at night, just like reading through my iPad, that's how I found this, and reading people's experiences, their real life experiences, and just learning more about our incredible world. I know that so much of this can sound so freaky when you think about the idea that there are infinite versions of us, that life is so much bigger than us, that we are floating on this tiny little planet and making these big lives for ourselves. But at the end of the day, I think it's one of the most beautiful and incredible things to know that we are so much more than this. We are here for our learning. We are here for our growth. It sounds so cliche, but it's true, and it's fascinating to learn how much bigger our world is. Like, to me, it just makes my earthly problems seem so much smaller. I don't know, you guys, I found this one to be so fascinating. Not only was the story itself just so interesting from start to finish, there were so many different possibilities and different outcomes. I feel like so many of you are gonna have different thoughts and theories, and some of you may agree with me that it's perhaps an overlapping of timelines. But if you do agree with that theory, I would love to know why it is you think it happened and why that particular day. We know from the writer's point of view that that crash was deemed fatal. And what would be the chances regardless of seeing their car twice? It's very interesting to imagine, and I would just love to know all of your thoughts and theories down below. No idea is too small. I love reading all of your guys' comments. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been showing me so much love here on my channel. It means the absolute world to me, and even just commenting on my content makes the world of difference. So thank you so very much for that, and I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed, as I just mentioned, I would love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button down below, and please give this video a big thumbs up. It super helps me. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you. Bye, guys.